Tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael. You will command the Bnei Yisrael. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you should command the Bnei Yisrael, and they will take to you olive oil that is pure, or oil of an olive that is pure, kosses lamoir, pressed for the luminary, lahalis ner tamid, to kindle, to raise up a constant light, a constant candle. Then goes on, ba'oil moyed, in the tent of meeting, in other words, in the Mishkan, Yarachoi say Aaron Avonov, Aaron and his children, meaning the Kehanim. It's not just Aaron, but Aaron and the older Kehanim set it up, me'erev ad boiker, from evening till morning, lefnei Hashem, going before Hashem. It's known the questions of our Rebbeim, our leaders in this pasuk and these psukim, the ma'ach Hashem mitzvah ba'am. Since the mitzvah is incumbent upon Aaron, this is Aaron HaKohen's mitzvah. Shehu yarech notice that he has to set up the candles, meaning he has to light them. Lo mitziva Hashem. Why Hashem command? V'yichoi lechem, they shall take it to you. Why are we taking this to Moshe Rabbeinu? The mashma that indicates Shiaviu Hashem and Al Moshe, they should bring the oil to Moshe. Gamsar love, and also we need to understand Mashakos B'tchil Se'inim. What it says at the beginning of the topic, and you will command the Bnei Yisrael. The Koyal Moshe Rabbeinu. The you is referring to Moshe. The entire Torah was given through Moshe Rabbeinu. He was the one that commanded the Bnei Yisrael all the mitzvahs. What's the reason for the extra emphasis over here? A matter that's applicable to Aaron, which is the lighting of the Menorah, the Maamar Tetzaveh, and you will command. So it's first of all, what is it different than any other mitzvah of the Torah that we don't say, and you will command the Yidden to keep Shabbos, or you will command the Yidden to do some other mitzvah, you will command the Yidden to bring the Karbanos, and here all of a sudden it's you will command, and on top of that, you will command a mitzvah that's really in the purview of Aaron. It's also on the question that in the first pasuk, where it says they shall take to Moshe, it says to kindle, to raise up a constant light, a constant candle. It uses the word tamid, meaning always, constantly. Well, pasuk sheni gaba Aaron, the second pasuk, what Aaron will set up, it says from evening till morning bolvad. So it's not constant. Why does it? And even the constant of the previous pasuk, they explain constantly means every single day. But why does he change? And why does he use one word for the same thing previously and then the other word? So why by Moshe Rabbeinu does he use the word tamid? And when it speaks about Aaron practically doing it, he says the word me'erev ad boker, from evening till morning. So the Rebbe goes on to explain, the explanation of this matter is the ultimate service of a person is lost his kesher amitz, to make a strong bond, v'yichud niflam, and a wondrous unity between the Yidden and Hashem. And that is also explains is the meaning of the word mitzvah. Mitzvah is related to the Aramaic word tzaf v'chibur, togetherness, joining, that a Yid and Hashem join through the mitzvahs. Hashem and the Jewish people are similar to a chasen, a groom, and his bride. Therefore, just like a literal chasen and kala need to have two escorts that bring them to the chuppah. Why they need to have escorts? They are not comparable one to another. They are completely different people, and now they're joining together to make a home. So therefore, they need to be escorted. The escorts are, in a simple sense, they help them, they assist them. The Rebbe explains in a sikha that they are an encouragement to them. That's why it should be married people, because a married person indicates, we've done it, it worked. Here, we're helping you out as well. So Sheshvin and Shalach the Malcolm, there is the escort of the king, that in the spiritual state that's called the escort of the king, because that's going on Hashem. He's called our chassan. Shehua maybe as a chassan ala kala, that the escort brings the chassan to the kala. And the escort of the king is the one that brings the chassan to the kala. And then there's the escort of the bride, the maternisa. It's called the escort of the queen. That he brings the bride to the groom, to the chassan. So just like it is down here, that each one brings their, if you will, charge to their opposite number. So to its Yidden and Hashem, they are considered also, like we said before, a chassan and kala. And Matan Torah is considered the marriage of Hashem and the Jewish people. And therefore, just like here have escorts, the same thing, there is the escorts of Hashem and the Jewish people in their marriage. And then so there's the escort of the king, and the escort, the Moshe, which is Shvina, the Malka. Moshe is called the escort of the king of Hashem. The Aharon, which is Shvina, the Matronisa. Aharon is called the escort of the queen. That's why specifically by Aharon it says, when you will raise up. What does that mean? You will raise up the king. Hine klolos in the general idea of candles. Koyam Shamas Yisrael is referring to the souls of the Jewish people. Like it says in the pasuk, the candle of Hashem is the soul of a person. So we are all godly and divine candles. And Aaron kindles us and raises us up, like it says, he causes us to ascend. This is especially, we are called Neiros HaMenorah. We are called the candles of the Menorah. Explain that length and the Torah on parts Baloischa. The Shivas Kanya Menorah, the 7 branches of the candelabrum in the Beis Hamikdash, Menorah, Him Shivas Hasugim Sheben Neshamas Yisrael. These goes on 7 types, 7 kinds, 7 levels. In Neshamas Yisrael, there's those that serve Hashem out of Chesed, out of love, those that serve Hashem out of Gvura, out of awe. We also know there's a very famous Haftorah that's and also parts of Baloischa, that the Navi was shown over there, an image of an entirely golden Menorah, and it's referring to Neshamas Yisrael and so on. So the Menorah and the candles of the Menorah is referring to the souls of the Yidden. And Aaron specifically, we said, is the one that kindles, Ba'aloischa raises up the candles of the Menorah. So that's what he's going to explain now. The Inyan Halos and the idea of the raising up, the kindling of the candles through Aaron. He pu'ulose shel Aaron b'neshamas Yisrael. It's Aaron in the souls of the Yidden. Shel Aaron who Sheshvina the Maternisa. The idea of Aaron is that he is the escort of the queen. To raise up the kala, which is the Jewish people, to the chassan, which is Hashem. What is that in the service of a Jew to Hashem? What type of a service is considered the service of Aaron, the idea of raising up from below to above? That's who inyan avodas atfilah, the avodah of davening. Davening is about rising up from below to above. Like it says in the pasuk, Sulam mutzav arza, that it's a ladder standing on the ground. That it's the top of the ladder reaches to the heavens. Davening is like a ladder. And not only that, but the specific stages in davening are likened to different rungs in the ladder. There's Sukkah de Zimra, the verse of praise, the Brichas Krishma, the brachas we say before, after Kriyat Shema, then there's Kriyat Shema, then there's Shemoneh Esrei. This is like 4 rungs of davening that we are rising up higher and higher to go up higher to Hashem. So this is all Aaron, being the escort of the queen, The escort of Klal Yisrael helps raise us up. He kindles, he raises us up. He is the idea of the level of davening, and he represents the davening that there is by Yid, and he assists us in our davening. As opposed to Moshe Rabbeinu, he is the escort of the king. It's about drawing down the chassan, which is the Eibishter, to the Jewish people. That gave us the Torah, because Torah is associated with Hashem coming down here. That the Torah and Hashem are entirely one. So by Moshe Rabbeinu bringing down Hashem, who's one with the Torah, and through the giving of the Torah to Klal Yisrael. So the chassan, which is Hashem, comes down. Also the study of Torah, just like the Aaron in our service is davening, our service of Moshe, that's the study of Torah. But so Adam will limit our Torah in the service of a person, that's the study of Torah. The Torah in Yanam Shachim, Torah's ideas that drawing down from above to below, like I said before. Like it says, that I spoke with you from the heavens. So it means, again, it's coming down from above to below. Hashem is speaking to us, he's coming down to us. And it says, behold, my words are like fire. What does that mean? My words are like fire. It's a Torah is a fire that descends below, in such a way that it doesn't remain in the heavens, like it says in the pasuk in Chumash Dvarim. A Torah loy b'shamayim, not in the heavens, it's not across the sea. It was brought down from the heavens down to us. So now we're going to go back to our pasuk at the beginning of the pasuk. That's what it says. They shall take to you the oil of an olive, pure, pressed for the luminary, to kindle a constant light. Oil moed in the tent of meeting. Aaron and his children will set it up from evening till morning before Hashem. The Torah Tefilah relates the two ideas of Torah study and davening. The Shem and Zayizach Kaslamar Lahals Ner Tamid, the oil of the olive, pure, pressed for the luminary, to raise up a constant candle. Hu inyan ha-Torah. That's the idea of Torah study. Therefore, we have to preface it by saying they shall take it to you. We didn't understand before, why do we have to take the oil to Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu is not the one that's going to be kindling the menorah. Why do we bring the oil to him? But because Torah is Torah, the idea of Torah occurs and happens through Moshe, who's the escort of the king. That is the first pasuk. The second pasuk says, so he will set it up. Who not feel its idea of davening. Therefore, it's accomplished through Aaron, the escort of the queen. Who the idea behind this is the Shem and Zayizach Goimer Lamoir Koya Limit Torah. He's going to explain why each one has to do with the other. The idea of the oil of the olive pure to be going on the study of Torah. Therefore, as a preface, an introduction to Torah study, there has to be the idea of pressed. The beginning of Torah study comes about through bittul. One needs to have the idea of the pressing themselves. They need to put themselves aside and so on, sublimating themselves. Which of course, like it says, and we say this in davening, my soul should be like dust before all, and then following that, open up my heart in your Torah. So as a prerequisite for Torah study and joining Hashem in the study of Torah, we need to start off with being bottled. We need to sublimate ourselves to Hashem. And we actually find that Moshe was the epitome of that. Just like by Moshe himself, it says, remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. In other words, Moshe is a transmitter of the Torah, like we said before. He was the escort of the king to bring the Torah down here. He brings Hashem down here through giving us his Torah, that Hashem is one with the Torah. And what did Moshe exemplify? What was Moshe known as? He was known as an Eved, my servant. He is referred to as my servant, specifically the idea of bittul. Also, we could also bring from another place where it says that there was no other person as humble as Moshe Rabbeinu was humble. Why? Because again, together with Torah goes the idea of humility, the introduction and the basis for Torah study is the idea of humility. That's the idea of being pressed for the luminary. The idea of the sublimation of the olive, that means nullifying one's existence. How much more so to nullify one's ego? There is ego and there is Metzias. Ego is literally the focus on self. Metzias is more of an awareness of self, a consciousness of self, not that he's focused on himself. So ideally, one needs to entirely lose themselves in the Torah. In the way of being pressed, that there's an expression in Chazal when it wants to talk about the measure is lessened and cut off, it uses the word related to kasis. So in other words, it's really cutting away, it's really removing all extraneous parts that are would interfere with the bittul to Torah and Hashem. Another thing about the kasis that has to be done to the zayis, to the olive, the zayis mitzad atzmai, which yesh by merirus. Olives on its own has bitterness. Like the dove proclaimed when he returned to the teva, to the ark after the flood, that that it would be better, my sustenance would be as bitter as an olive. Can move up Pirish Rashi al Torah al pasuk. All the zayis b'terpefil, like Rashi explains on the pasuk, where it says that the dove returned with a leaf of a torn leaf from an olive tree in its mouth, and it was proclaiming that I'd rather have my food come in the most bitter fashion on my own rather than get it fed through others. But what we see is that that it was a given that olives are bitter. Also, the Gemara Hodeis says that eating olives, it makes the Torah study of 70 years, because it has to do like with bitterness. The different Maamar, the Maamar of the Dvar Malchus goes into a lot more detail. The olive shows on the klippah because it's a covering for the oil. But either way, it makes a lifetime of Torah study be forgotten if one eats just olives alone, not with the olive oil. And despite the fact that the olive on its own seems to be such a negative thing, through pressing it, we extract its oil. In such a manner that the oil is not just something that gives forth now light once you extracted the oil from the olive. So in the simple sense, now it can give forth light, which beforehand the olive alone or the oiled oil did not give forth any light. So now it can not only does it give forth light, it says it's pressed to the luminary. The luminary is the source of light, meaning through this bittul reaches such a high level, which is not just the level of light, but the source of the light. Through the bittul in a way of being pressed. So it comes down in the person HaTorah. I don't know if I said it correctly. Comes down the person, the Torah itself. But in a way that's being drawn down from above to below, like we said before. person is not in a state of ascent and rushing and behind, which is the other ideas of the davening and so on. There he's ascending way around. While being in his place, in the machmas habitul, because prefaces his Torah study, the very luminary itself, not just the light, but the source of the light comes down into the person. For this reason, it says over here, to raise up a constant candle, as opposed to later where it says, because when you draw down from the luminary, the source of the light, it is beyond time. As it's known, this man that the Torah has no limitations of time. The obligation of studying Torah in its simple sense is always in every time, in every situation. Unless there's some other mitzvah I need to do or some other occupation that I need to do, that I'm released from that obligation. But as long as I'm not doing that, I have an obligation to study Torah. So, and not only that, but we find that mitzvahs, just to contrast, because this explains, mitzvahs are limited to a certain time. Whatever, Shabbos is once a week, Yom Tovim is a year, Karbanos were only in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. But studying Torah, even studying Torah about Shabbos and studying Torah about Karbanos and studying Torah about Yom Tovim, it's not limited to a certain time. The Torah study of those things can be done in the where all these other things can't be done. So that's why it says Lahalus Ner Tamid, because in this pasuk it's talking about Torah study. Since it's talking about Torah study, it's constant and it's always. Afterwards it says that Aaron will set it up from evening till morning. It's referring to the avodah of davening, like we said before, that Aaron is the escort of the queen. It's the escort of Klal Yisrael. It's the idea of rising up to greet Hashem, their chassan. The avodah of Tefilah in Yanahu Allah, the avodah of Tefilah, what is it? The idea behind it is the elevation, ascent from below to above, like analogous to fire that goes up by its nature above. That's the nature of fire that draws upwards naturally without it needing up from below to above. Hainum sha'esh v'Hashem shebener nich v'hainu sha'esh, the fire, shebener, and the oil that is part of the candle, nichlim, become consumed, the oil becomes consumed into the fire, and they go up, together with the fire of oil and they go up above. So now he explains, and this, there are three aspects and three components. One thing says, Yarech oisoi Aharon. Aharon needs to set it up. Now, it's very interesting that it uses the word setting it up. There's a lot of things in the Beis Hamikdash that are done that obviously set up. The arranging of the karbanos, different things have to be set up. What is the emphasis on the setting up? The emphasis should not be on the up. Setting up is a given. Every single thing you got to set up and organize it beforehand. What's the point over here with emphasizing setting it up? So he says spiritually in davening, setting up indicate it's the meditation and davening and the arranging and organizing of one's thoughts. That is the first thing that we say, that Aaron has to set it up. That's why also a siddur is called from the word siddur, from the word arranging. You are arranging things that you are going to say. You have to prepare yourself. It's like you're going to address an important person. You're going to address the king. You're going to address that you have a very important meeting that you have to attend and give a presentation. So you arrange it and you think beforehand and you set it up in your mind, what exactly and how exactly you're going to say. That's one part of the davening process that we find in this pasuk. Beis, A second component says, when you will raise up the candles, then there's the raising up itself that is from below to above. The actual, now once I've arisen and I've set myself up and I've meditated, so now I actually have to raise myself up and go from below to above. Gimel, the third thing that it says, literally, you need to improve the candles. That's the beitiva is in the word toiv. You kindle in such a way that the candles will actually shine down here below. They will actually illuminate. For this reason, it says from evening until morning. Because davening has in it these different levels that we spoke about before. So because there's the different levels, so that's why it says from evening to morning instead of what it says by Torah. Torah is beyond time and it has no limits in time and it's always, so therefore it says tamid, it says constant. But by the Menorah, it says erev u'boker. What does that mean? These are the two matters of evening and morning. Hakiruv milmata l'mayla, the closeness that approach from below to above. So down here below is dark in comparison to the light above. So that's evening. So that's what I'm approaching from below to above. That's one aspect and component of davening. And after that, in response to that, there's Hashem's responding to me. The drawing down of Hashem's pleasant, that He's pleasing from above to below. That's the idea of morning. That's revelation. Similar to that, it's also in the literal, simple sense of the matter. The achi of the tefillah, that the obligation of davening, einai chiyuv tmidi, like we mentioned before, the obligation of davening is not a constant obligation like Torah study. It is in the evening and the morning, just like the karbanis. The tefillah is connected karbanis tiknum. The davening was established corresponding to the carbon tamid and the karbanis. They established it. So in other words, we know that morning davening, shachris, is connected tamid shel shachar, is the tamid carbon, the opening carbon of the base of Migdash. That was a carbon oila that was brought in the morning. The evening davening, the mincha davening, that's corresponding to the closing karbanis in the afternoon, the carbon tamid of the afternoon, that closed all the karbanis, was the final carbon in the base of Migdash. So that's why it says erev haboker, because davening is like the karbanis. It has a set time. You daven in the morning, you daven in the evening. That's why it says, first in the pasuk, it speaks about taking it to you, and then it speaks about that Aaron will set it up. There is the precedent. First, there is the escort of the king, what Moshe Rabbeinu does, to the escort of the queen, what Aaron does. Like in a very literal and simple sense. Before davening, there has to be Torah study. Why before davening does it have to be Torah study? You need to know how to daven. You need to know what to say. You need to know when to say what. You need to know where to begin, where to end, what days to say which things. So you need to study the halachas of davening. So therefore, just like in the pasuk, first comes represents Torah, then comes Aaron, which represents davening. So the same thing in our own lives, there has to be first the Torah study to know the halachas, then you can have the davening. By the only through appropriate study beforehand, as that tefillah kedarish, then the davening is the way it's supposed to be. On Yom Shabbat, Haricha va'alav va'tova kanal, that has to be the setup. You prepare yourself, you meditate, you organize your thoughts, and the actual ascent in davening, and then the improvement, the that it should shine and should illuminate the world around us. Then the Rebbe concludes, this is what it says, Va'ata Tetzaveh, that we wanted to know why it says over here, Va'ata Tetzaveh, that you will make the idea of the joining in the union. I'm already telling you about the union because he spoke about before that all the idea of Torah mitzvah is about the union. Va'ata Tetzaveh goimer the whole inyan ba'avodas, everything, the service of a Yid to Hashem, after the Shema, needs assistance from heaven. That's what it says, that you will command according to the specific matters of the service of the chasn and the service of the kalam, Shishvin, the malch of Shishvin, the mater nisa, the escort of the king and the escort of the queen. All of this, the chasn, the kala, the escorts, the Torah, the davening, all of this needs empowerment from above. So that's why we begin v'zel lashon tafsa v'chibur. That's why it says tetzaveh, for an expression of togetherness and union and joining. Shemachabrim hamayla im amata b'chlolos, that we join the above with the below in general, and not just that we join them, but ubebezei fan the halah b'amshacha, and in two manners. There's the way we join it, that the king comes down to us, the chassan comes to us, and the Allah is the elevation, and the hamshach. So we need both directions to come together to make this union. From the power for the details. And now the Rebbe is going to break it down even more so in the word ve'ata. He says, this idea more specifically and more in detail. In the teves va'ata atzma yeshba bezin yom. In the word ve'ata and you itself, the first pasuk of the parsha, there are two aspects, two components to it. Ois vav, there's the letter vav, ve, and v'tevas ata, and the rest of the word, which is ata you. Okay, like it's explained in the Maamarim, the letter Vav is going on the king. The king is the Eir Anpin. That is Vav. Chassidus says, Yudke Vav case, so the Vav is the 6 midas. That's usually the spheres, that's the level of the king coming down below, Zeir Anpin. The Tevas Ata, Koel Bechinas Matronisa Malchus. The word Ata, you, is referring to the queen, the level of, to explain the Chassidus, that Malchus we know is the level of Hashem's speech. Like it says, a king rules through his speech. And the speech is what's responsible for the creation of the world. So it says, Ve'ata mechayes kulam, you are the one that gives life to all. And specifically, the word Ata indicates the concept of speech, because Ata begins with the letters Aleph Taf, meaning the letters of the Aleph base from Aleph through Taf is responsible for the creation. And Hey, the 5, indicates the Hey Moitzai Sapeh, the 5 enunciators, which is the source of the letters. There's the lips, there's the tongue, there's the teeth, all the different sections of the mouth that are responsible for different letters. So this is all indicating Malchus. So Ve'ata means both the level of the king and the queen. From the fact that both of these ideas, the king and the queen, are both found in one word. This indicates that it's the idea of the union of Malchus, which Chassidus always speaks about, the empowerment for the world, and this is what's to such a degree that this union is no way of you shall join, it's no way that union in the ultimate type of perfection of the unity. So that's what it means. Ve'ata tetzaveh. The va'ata is already a joining of the king and the queen. Tetzaveh, total and complete union between them. Like it's explained at length in Kuntres Eitz Chaim, Yichud Zo Malchus Bechlal. That's the general union of the spheres above called Zo and Malchus. In davening language, that's what we say before Baruch Shamar, L'Shem Yichud Kutsha B'richu Shchinte. Kutsha B'richu is the level of Zo, Shchinte is the level of Malchus. All of our mitzvahs are about the joining of Zo and Malchus. The Gam, another point behind it is, this idea in the service of a person to Hashem, who yichud yilav yichud tata. It's a joining of two types of bittul to Hashem. There's a bittul to Hashem the way the worlds are bottled to Hashem. Then there's a bittul to Hashem where it's bottled from Hashem's perspective, similar to what we spoke about earlier about bittul v'metzias and bittul hayesh. So both these levels of bittul and sublimation are joined together. That's what you have when you have yichud zo and malchus. That's when you have the Maamar Tetzaveh. So the Rebbe concludes with a bracha, Yiratzah should be the will of Hashem. Through this avoid of joining Torah, the level of Va'ata, Chibur Vav, and Va'ata, the joining of Vav and the word Ata, Shu Chibur Beis Ha'etzim. This is also the joining of the two levels of the trees that says that was in Gan Eden. There was Ilana the Chaya, the tree of life, Ilana the Toivara, and there's the tree of good and bad, the tree called the Eitz Hadas, Kimavur Barucha B'Kuntres Eitz Chaim Sham. That's explained at length in Kuntres Eitz Chaim, that there's the joining of Torah and mitzvahs, or Torah and Tefilah, or the joining of Pnimis HaTorah and Nigla Torah. So this is the joining. This is all encompassed in the joining that we're talking about over here of Zah and Malchus, of the king and the queen, the escort of the king and queen, and Moshe and Aharon. So through that union, Navi Bakar of Mamish, Liyachudam B'Shleimus, we will come speedily to their perfect unity, B'Chasunasim B'Shleimus, and their complete marriage. As we know, the completion and the conclusion of the marriage is when Mashiach comes. Even though betrothal, the beginning of the marriage, took place on Har Sinai, but the level of the Nisuyim, the final step of marriage, is going to take place between Hashem and the Jewish people when Mashiach comes, by from Nitzchit and be in an everlasting way. The Meher remain a mamish speedily in our days in actuality. Moshe and Aharon together with them. The Nakir is called Korbanos K'mitzvot. Then we will offer all sacrifices, like the mitzvahs of your will, the Kolshim, the Kavachayim, in your name mitzvah. How much more so that we will fulfill candle, which is a mitzvah. Which candle, which is a mitzvah? The literal candles that we're talking about in our parsha, Neiros HaMenorah, the candles of the Menorah, and Neiros HaMishkan, the candles that were Migdash, Rishon Vasheni, and the second base of Migdash, B'Karav Mamish, and very soon, but Migdash Ashlish, in the third base of Migdash, B'Meherav Yemeinu Mamish, speedily in our days, Mamash.
Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Amen, 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 amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Have a good